Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina astafa amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Walladhina jahadu fina lanahdiyannahum subulana. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalina walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has inspired each and every one of us with that which is sound and pure, something which is noble for ourselves, meaning taqwa. And that which is fujur, that which will harm us, that which is detrimental for all of us. So there are many blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with. One blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us is this ni'mat of Iman. One blessing which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, and this is a blessing which, if a person has Iman, this blessing will pull a person. It will pull a person to taqwa. This blessing will pull a person towards khair. This blessing will try to make a person a better person. It will show her or him what their true state is and how deep their condition they have fallen into. And that blessing is that all a person needs to do is to ask their heart. And all what a person needs to do is that you need to ask your heart. A person needs to ask his heart, or a person needs to ask her heart. The Prophet ﷺ said that take fatwa from your heart. Ask your heart and your inner conscious, because your heart will never lie to you. Now you can ask your heart and your inner conscious that how is your level of Iman? You can ask this question, that how is your level of taqwa? How is your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How strong you are in your deen? How many feelings of zikr do you have? All of this, a person's batin, their inner self can tell us. So what happens is that we also have a lifestyle, an inward lifestyle. There is an outward lifestyle that people see, and then there is an inner lifestyle that we are aware of. And here, many of us, we fall into a type of a nifaq, a type of a hypocrisy, that the outward of our life is something else, and the inward reality of our heart is something else. And the strange thing that people do is that they're working harder on the outward form of their life, whereas they should be working harder on the inward reality of their heart, or trying to remove this discrepancy between zahir and batin. But what we actually do is that we are focusing on the zahir and we are neglecting the batin. We're neglecting the inward, and because of that, there is a discrepancy between our outer and inner. And because they don't want to change the state of their hearts, so they keep up with their appearance, with their outer form. And what ends up happening is that a person can then fall into a downward spiral, a decline. So outwardly, he might have a beard, he might be on deen. Outwardly, she may be on deen, she's wearing a hijab, maybe they're carrying a tasbih, they may go for umrah, he might listen to radio Islam, or she might listen to some other Islamic nasheed. So many outward aspects in their life that which tell us that they're on deen. But still in their heart, there is some sinful feeling. Maybe it's backbiting, maybe it's jealousy for someone else, maybe he still has love for dunya, maybe she has love for materialistic things, comforts, and love for extra fine things of the world. Or worse, a person might even have, maybe they might have sinful feelings. Or even worse, a sinful affair with someone, an affair which is sinful. So there's something wrong in her batin. There's something wrong in his inner. But instead of fixing it, what they do is that they work on their appearance. They're working on their outer. So outwardly, they're living a life of a pious personality, but inwardly, they might be suffering from a sinful disease. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this clear in the Quran that every person of every human being, they are a witness. They can perceive their own self. Nafsihi basira. They can see their own condition. So even though they might present their excuses to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or they might present their excuses to their own self, but everyone knows in reality what their true reality is, what their true condition is. So first step is that what we have to do if you want to become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is simply introspection. Simply reflect. Hasibu qabla an tuhasibu. And you reflect on your real state before that real condition is examined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His mercy, in His hidayah has made it easy that all we have to do is to ask our heart. You don't need to go for some analysis, some treatment. Just analyze your own heart. This is the blessing that you just need to ask your own self. That's why if there's a person who's doing a sinful act, now as long as he or she, if they have iman in their heart, they will feel regret. One will feel some remorse, some shame inside oneself. But sometimes what happens is that a person becomes so addicted to a particular sin, or they might be so adjusted to a particular lifestyle that they don't feel remorse anymore. So, for example, there is a person who might be living such a materialistic, worldly lifestyle where they're engaging sometimes in extravagance and luxury, and they don't feel bad about that anymore. They don't realize that there is a level called israf by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That you're wasteful. And because they don't realize, they don't feel any shame or remorse about that. They think it's okay. So sometimes then they might become numb or desensitized to the wrong things that they're doing. So that is why we have this path of tazkiyah. It's a path of assessment. He might be thinking that he's doing fine in deen. Right? She might be thinking that she's doing fine in deen. But if she sees fellow, if they see fellow people, if he sees his fellow friends, if she sees her fellow females, fellow women, when they listen to bayan, they will hear things that will give them a different perspective on life. And then, one will feel shame. Then one may want to reflect on their condition. We will reflect on your condition. Will present ourselves to the Quran to seek that hidayah from the Quran, that hidayah from the Sunnah, to assess ourselves in light of this Quran and Sunnah. And when we do that, then we will realize that there's so much more that we can do. Right? I was thinking that I was fine, but when I'm looking at other people around me, I'm listening to bayan, I'm listening to other things, then or they will get a different perspective on life. They will realize that there's so much more that I can do. Like, people are homemakers. They're always looking for room for improvement in their house, in their home. Anything that is slightly worn out, they'll say that I'll replace it. If only a woman, she could take that same attitude, that same perspective in her deen. And is there any aspect of my deen where I might be slacking, where there is some room for improvement? Is there any more knowledge of deen which I can acquire? Is there any more feelings for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I can acquire in my heart? Is there any more feelings for zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I can get? Is there any more understanding of the hadith and seerah that I can acquire? Is there any more work of deen, khidmat of deen that I could be doing right now? Is there any more people in my life with whom I can share and spread these teachings of deen, these commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is there more? Just like a person, when they look in their house, that is their scope for improvement, right? A woman, she looks, that is there, even when she's making a single dish for food, right? One dish, but she's constantly thinking that maybe I can make it better. A sprinkle of this, a dash of that. And then she will ask for external assessment, right? She'll ask for maybe her sister or ask her friend or her husband to taste it. And if she wants feedback, she's on a mission to improve that dish, to make it as best as she can. That same attitude, that same outlook, that same perspective, we should have, when we come to our deen, to take that same attitude on our deen. Now, one of the disadvantages of having too many luxuries, all those are blessings of Allah Ta'ala, that sometimes, they can numb our heart. And we have seen this especially in those homes where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, alhamdulillah, a lot of wealth, a lot of blessings, a lot of comfort in big cities, right? Being comfortable in the luxury, that is holding them back. It's holding the men back. It's holding the women back. Being comfortable in too much luxury, that's holding them back. A certain level of sacrifice and a certain level of simplicity is required to progress in deen. Sacrifice and simplicity. You need these two things. These are required in order to advance in deen. A person, they will go to an extra level when they make sacrifice for the sake of Allah, when they have some simplicity in their life. And if they don't have this, then there may be a lot of things that they do in deen, mashallah, but it will be capped. There will be an upper limit, like a max limit. They will not be able to go beyond that limit. And the reason why they're not able to go beyond that limit is because they're too caught up in the comforts of these luxuries, too caught up in that. And then what ends up happening is that this person, he or she, they're only willing to do in deen if they can do along with their existing schedule. Right? So for example, there's a woman. This woman, she's only willing to do in deen if she can do along with her existing schedule, if she can do it within her existing timetable. So, she will give her leftover extra scrap of her time to Deen, right? The leftover parts are going to the to Deen. If there's any teaching of Deen, any practice of zikr, which she can fit into her schedule, she will do it. But the moment you try to encroach on her dunya, she starts saying that, no, I'm so busy. I have to work. I have to take my kids to school. I have to take care of my husband. I have to take care of my home. But if any of her friends, they call her up and they invite her to some special social gathering, then she will not give the same answer to her friend that I'm busy with the kids. She goes, right? She goes. But if the teacher, the ustad, they say that you take time out, make more effort on your ilm, do zikr, you start learning your deen properly, then she might say all these things, right? So what she's saying is precisely this, that I'm only willing to do those extra things in my deen which don't disturb my dunya in the slightest. Like I can also say the same thing, right? That I'm only willing to do those extras in my deen which don't disturb my dunya in the slightest. So this is complete reversal of priority. And especially with young men and young women, we see this, that we're not willing to make sacrifices. We're not willing to disturb our dunya, even in the slightest. This is complete reversal of priority, because deen should be priority. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is priority. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. All our worldly schedules can be adjusted. You can adjust them, you can revise them, they're adjustable. All our worldly schedules can be adjusted. They can be adjusted for the sake of one extra drop in deen. They can be adjusted to get even slightly closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything else can be put aside to gain that extra qurb and closeness and nearness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not saying that one should be negligent in the responsibilities that you have in the dunya. I'm not saying that you have to be heedless or negligent or fall short in fulfilling your responsibilities in dunya. What I'm saying is that there are two things that you must learn. If we really want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the two things. That it's not enough to come to a lecture or a bayan or a dars as a fashion, right? You have to come with a passion. We have made this into a fashion thing. We come, we attend, and then after 1 week, it's over. So it's not enough to come to such talks as a fashion. You have to come with a passion, with an intention that you want to change, that you want to sacrifice. You're willing to simplify your dunya. You want to go deeper in deen. You want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want to feel that love for Allah in your heart. You want to increase in that intensity of muhabbat for Allah in your heart. You want your heart to have more sunnah. You want your heart to have more haya, more modesty. You want your heart to have more taqwa. So if we want to be successful in this, then we have to learn a few things about how to prioritize and balance your life. There are a few things that we have to learn about how to prioritize and balance our life, right? So the first thing is called hukukullah. Hukukullah. And this has two aspects. One is that you do the farais, things which are obligatory in deen, you do them, which also includes that you stay away from sin. Staying away from sin is also farz. Staying away from backbiting is also farz. Right? That's one aspect, things which are farais, which are required, obligatory. And the second is hukukul ibad. right? Hukukul ibad. Hukukul ibad means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed you in certain roles, like a father, mother, son, daughter, husband, wife. So hukukul ibad means to fulfill the roles according to the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to fulfill them. So for example, if you're a father, then hukukul ibad aspect of being a father is that you raise your children in such a way that they become lovers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same applies for a mother. That if you're a mother, hukukul ibad aspect of being a mother is that you raise your children in such a way that they become lovers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this is, apart from the shopping trips and vacations, all of that, this is part of hukukul ibad, that you play out the role the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to, right? If you're a husband, then be an affectionate, supportive husband to your wife. If you're a woman married, be an affectionate, supportive wife to your husband, right? You go out, earn rizq halal tayyib to be able to support your family. So our real identity is our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For some of us, we have made this our personality, that we are an expert in baking, expert in cooking, expert in designing, expert in painting. I'm an expert homemaker. This is not supposed to be your identity, right? You have to go beyond hukukul ibad, right? I'm an expert in cleaning. This is not part of your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, this is also, right, important in our deen, that we play out the role the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to play it out. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is at the center of every relationship. That is the center of every identity that you have. You link it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is second thing, hukukul ibad. And then the third thing are the nawafil. Now we come to the extra. And again, nawafil, this is again hukukullah. Hukukullah, but extra. Extra in the sense that you try to get more of deen. You try to get more of sunnah. You try to learn more of deen. You try to practice more zikr. You do more khidmat of deen. You try to spend more time in the company of the pious. So you're trying to get extras in your deen, getting more in your deen. So these are three things. And after these three, then you come to the other extras of your life, right? Now you can come to the other extras. So instead of priority, we want to use the word balance, right? So now what are the other extras? For example, extra studying, which is fine. Sometimes we will have to give extra time to our studies. Or sometimes we'll have to give extra time to the people in our life, to hukukul ibad, right? Even though your heart, your passion of the heart might be that I want to spend all my free time in zikr, in learning the Quran, in studying ilm, right? But then sometimes you have to use hikmat, you have to use wisdom. Everyone's case is different, right? If you have a supportive structure back at home, then perhaps it might be easy for you, right, to give that extra time to deen. If you don't have a supportive structure, family structure, or a religious supportive family, then you don't need to give, you might not be able to give so much time. If your husband or family is not as understanding, right, you'll have to balance that out. You'll have to sit with them, talk to them, sit with your children, sit with your husband, sit with your wife, sit with your in-laws. You might think it's ghafla, but it's not a ghafla. You have to balance this. There's no golden rule or formula about balancing. You will learn sometimes by making mistakes. There is some trial and error in deen as well. But provided you have the intention that you want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put barakah in your effort of balancing. So let me give another concept for understanding balancing. I think most of our audience here is women, they're women. And this is particularly important for a woman that, and also for a man, this concept of haya, to have both our outward haya and inward haya. And both aspects are important. There is the zahir and batin in our deen. There are two names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, az-zahir, al-batin. There is an outward appearance, and the second was the inward reality. This word haya, in which lies the dignity and honor and respect of a man and a woman, haya. Haya, in which lies the dignity of a person in the eyes of other people and in their own eyes. And most of all, in haya lies her honor and respect and dignity in her relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This honor, respect, and dignity in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is based on our haya. Not just the outer haya, but the inner haya, the true haya. This true chastity and modesty and purity. So let's look at this notion of balance, right? So we start with the outer form, and our mashayikh, they have mentioned 3 levels of balance, right? In Urdu, or rather Persian, Farsi, the first one is called Rehaish. Rehaish is just what you call basic living. Like there is a house which is just basic, functional, and you are just living, you're just able to live in that house. There is a roof, there is a wall, so you're just protected, and there is no you're not affected by the surroundings outside. It's a basic structure, right? So Rehaish, you start with that. Then the second level is called Asaish. Asaish means ease and comfort. So let's link this to this concept of haya. What is ease and comfort? So for example, when a person is at, they dress up in a comfortable, easy way, but in a permissible way, right? For a woman, that means if she's at home, she is with maybe her mahram or all female company. So she may wear whatever she feels comfortable and easy, and Sharia has given that permission to wear such clothes, easy and comfortable, right? As long as even in such a company, when they're even all women, there's some level of decorum, a level of haya in the house, right? As long as she maintains that haya, then she can wear whatever she wants, whatever she feels comfortable and easy in. So this is the second level, asaish, ease and comfort. Then after that, there is another level which is called araish. Araish means that it's easy, it's comfortable, and also attractive. You like it yourself. So we're still talking about, let's say for the women case, still talking about indoors or among women. So there might be a nice pattern to the clothing, nice design, color. She likes that. A person likes that, right? They're allowed that type of a clothing for themselves, where it's easy, comfortable, and according to their liking. They like it, right? So Sharia allows this as well. That if you find it to be attractive, you can buy it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's permissible. But then after this, there is another level which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like, the fourth level. And in Urdu or Persian, you call this nomaish. This is called raya, that you show off. That I'm going to wear this because I want the other people to see me, right? I'm going to wear this outfit because I want them to see me in a different outfit every day. Right? How can I wear this perfect dress when I wore it 2 years ago at that wedding? Right? Rhea. Or anything for fame, right? Anything which a person wears for showing off, for displaying extravagance. This is the boundary. This is not allowed in Islam and Sharia. So now when we put this, in terms of our clothing outside, there should not be any show or display, in the sense that no one should be attracted towards her. And that's why it's important that a person, they have haya even in the outward, right? We speak about, when we do this in our Islamic studies course at the university, we sometimes ask the students to read ayat where Allah Ta'ala mentions this concept of jilbab, right? Jilbab, or like an abaya, right? So this jilbab or abaya, it's only on the first level, this outer aspect of haya, right? But the same thing is also her inner aspect, the inner haya, the no showing off there as well. And then number two, that she must guard her inner beauty, because that's also a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's her inner haya. And what happens is, and we have seen that those families who have been blessed with more wealth than the average Muslim family in the world, they misunderstand, and sometimes they use that wealth in ways of dressing outside the home, which is not beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Every man or every woman, they should want that when I leave the house, I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be gazing at me with His love. And this will only happen through simplicity, or things which are permissible, at least which are permissible. Right? I mentioned two things, right? Sacrifice, and second thing, simplicity. So it doesn't mean that, being simple means that you don't have to enjoy the blessings of Allah. No, to a certain extent, you can enjoy and you should enjoy the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at the same time, especially when one is outside their home and meeting other, there should be some level of simplicity, a model of simplicity. Our own Shaykh and some of our teachers, they would say that one should try to select their clothing that which was historically worn by the Ummah. Our Mashaykh, they try to take even beyond the fatwa level to the taqwa level. They're training those people who want to be the salihin or the salihat, sadiqeen, sadiqat, zakirin, dhakirat, right? They're training individuals to reach that higher level of being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So sometimes they take it even to the next level and say that if you try to, sometimes, we wear clothing which might have a resemblance with un-Islamic elements of Western pop culture, right? You might wear that under your abaya, right? And even though it's allowed, it's permissible, fatwa is permissible, wearing jeans under the abaya or things like that, it's completely jais. But they would say that because of its relationship or a nisbat with the, with the culture, we don't even want to be attached to that. And that's a high level. That's a very difficult level for us to even think about. This level goes beyond what you call technically legal. It has to do more with spirituality than taqwa. Having a certain simplicity. Again, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever has tashabbu or resemblance with any culture, some elements might enter them, right? And then they will belong to that culture. فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. They will belong to that culture. So, some of you might be thinking that this is a bit too intense, right? It's just a piece of cloth, a piece of denim. What difference does it make? Uh, but what I ask you is that you can experiment. You can try, maybe put it away for 2 3 weeks, and then you can tell me yourself if it has an effect on your heart, and if it has an effect on your spirituality. Any There is some barakah in simplicity. Adopting simplicity and something which we can try it. I may not be able to give a rational explanation, right? Uh, of what difference does this make, right? Imam Ghazali rahmatullah, sometimes they just test it out, right? If you want to be rational, scientific, this is what we say, experimentation. That try it for 2 3 weeks. Wear something which is more closer to the ummah dress, the dress of the ummah. A dress which you can think about would be the dress of salihat, salihin, sadiqeen, dhakireen, right? People muttaqeen. Wear such a dress for 2 3 weeks, and you will see the difference, right? You will see the difference, and you will see whether how much of an effect it has on the spirituality, your spirituality, on the condition of your heart. And there is a certain sacrifice in spirituality, qurbani. And that is reason why some men, they hesitate to do this. And some women, they also hesitate to do this. So if nothing else, we can see it as a step on our nafs, right? Because tazkiyah is all about training our nafs. So you can ask yourself that why am I so attached to this? Right? This attachment should have been there for deen. This attachment should have been there for ibadat, for feelings for deen. These should have been the things that my heart cannot give up. Right? So this is another teaching of our mashayikh, mukhalafatun nafs, that you have to oppose the desires of your nafs. And sometimes a person would be asked to give up something which is purely halal. Why? Because you have been overly attached to it. Overly attached to it. And that extra fondness and feelings should have been only reserved for deen. In Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that they give from that which they love, that you cannot attain true piety unless you give that which you love. You give that from which something which was beloved to them. Why? It's permissible to give anything in charity, even a low quality thing, right? Something which is torn and you won't wear it ever in your life. You can give that away. It's permissible. But this ayat is also Allah specifically mentioning in the Quran. Allah has mentioned this in the Quran, that His greater love, Allah Ta'ala's greater fazl and mercy will come on that person when they sacrifice, when they donate something from that which they love. Why? Because now not only do they get the reward of that spending, that charity, but they also get the qurb, the closeness, the nearness to Allah Ta'ala as a result of making that sacrifice for the sake of Allah. So this will happen when you make yourself less close to something in the dunya. You will get more close to Allah by becoming less close to something in the dunya. So for example, when you loved something, your sweater, you were attached to it, you gave that away. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace that attachment of worldly object with a love for Himself, with love for the deen. So this is what the mashayikh, they teach. This is called tazkiyah. This is called trying to attain qurb, purifying the heart. And these are the ways of coming closer and closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you more when you attach yourself to deen more, when you're willing to make sacrifices for the deen more. And the reason why many of us are not able to draw close is again that we haven't adopted that simplicity and sacrifice that Allah wants from us. And even I'm speaking about the halal world, right? Not even the haram. In the halal, some of us, we are in love, too much in love with the halal, overly attached to the halal dunya, overly fond of the halal dunya. And it's holding us back from going to the next level in our deen. So that's our choice. That's your choice. If there is a person who's stuck in sins, right? In that case, even if he gives up some of the extra things of the dunya, he will feel more love and attachment to thee. And then this will help him leave the sins. Right? It's like this is one of the ways to come closer. There is a person who's stuck in sins. Even in that case, when you feel that I'm stuck, I'm not able to let go of these sins. But in that case, also, if you somehow can make that sacrifice and give up some of the extra extraneous things of the dunya, you will feel more love for the deen. And that love for deen will then help you leave the sins, will help one become regular in their salah, will help you in your zikr, will help you get feelings of taqwa, get feelings of haya. So this is an easy way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for us. Allah ta'ala wants some level of sacrifice and some level of simplicity. And basically, a person will have to make this choice. That do we want to live a life of simplicity and enjoy deen to its fullest extent? Enjoy ibadah, enjoy your relationship with Allah, nearness to Allah, love for Allah, enjoy that to the fullest possible extent. Or do we want to live this worldly life and enjoy this worldly life to its fullest extent? And then she will only get the bare and simple minimum deen, right? Then they will just get the D- deen, because they're concentrating on the joys and the pleasures of the halal dunya. And it's about a focus, right? What's your focus? What's your vision? What's your goal? What is the choice that you will be making? So if the choice is that I just want to live this worldly life to the fullest, then a person will get the bare minimum simple D- deen, because all their concentration focus is just on the joys of the dunya, pleasures of even the halal dunya. And it's a different focus. So if we can concentrate on what the deen has to offer, right, then Allah Ta'ala will give us deen and the enjoyment, the lazzat, the pleasure the deen has to offer to its fullest possible extent. In Arabic, this was called zohad. Zohad. Zohad doesn't mean that you have to leave your house, that you have to leave your car. No, right? Zohad means that you don't seek that enjoyment from the car, from the house, from the dunya. In sometimes fancy English, we translate Zohad that he's a ascetic, right? That word doesn't explain it properly. Zohad, the haqiqat, the reality of Zohad means that you are in this world, be in the world without being worldly. Be in the world without being attached to the world. Be in the world, but don't be off the world. Right? There are all different ways to explain that. Be in the world without being worldly. To have understand this, that to have Zohad means that to have the enjoyments of the world without enjoying them. To have the enjoyments of the world without enjoying them. Why? Because there is a greater concern. There is a greater enjoyment that you're after. There is a greater enjoyment that you're focusing on. Now, I'll give you an example. Now, every time there is a problem in life, and there is some difficulty for a person, then they don't get pleasure, right? Looking around in, at work or at home. They won't, in that at that point in their life, they don't get pleasure in the normal things which give them pleasure. If they call their friend and tell, the friend says that, go, you have such a nice house, such a nice job, such a nice car, right? They will say, then I cannot get pleasure from any of that, right? Your friend might say, then, oh, go sit in your nice car. And he will say, no, I cannot derive any happiness from that. He will say that these things are meaningless to me. I have another sorrow in my heart. Hmm? Could be something, maybe that person incurred some loss, or something happened, some relationship problem, right? So he says that as a result, that all these materialistic things that are of no comfort to me. It means that this person, he or she, they have the ability to turn off from the halal luxury of the dunya. They have that ability that they can turn off from the halal luxury enjoyment of the dunya. Why? Because he had a gham, he had a concern, a worry in his heart. Because she had a gham, a worry in her heart. She's able to turn that off. She has the ability to turn off from the halal luxury of the dunya. So similarly, right, those individuals who have a fikr, who have a concern that they want to become lovers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who want to become dhakireen, who remember Allah ta'ala abundantly, who want to become zakirat, female believers who remember Allah ta'ala abundantly, who want to become amongst the muqarrabeen, wants to become amongst the muttaqeen, the sabirin, the shakireen, who want to, the muhsinin, right? All categories mentioned in the Quran. Those men, those women who have this fikr, this concern that they want to become these Quranic category, Quranic individuals who want to live their life to the fullest extent on their deen, then they also will have a concern in their heart. They also will be carrying a gham, a grief, a fikr in their heart. And this concern is so overriding, which is that I want to make myself pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I want to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is their concern. Overriding concern. I want to make myself pleasing to Allah. I want to do my tazkiyah. I want to purify my heart. I want to rid myself of all of these blameworthy attributes. This concern is so overriding that they may have all of these materialistic things in their life, but they no longer take enjoyment. They no longer take that pleasure, that satisfaction from these things. This is called zuhud. Zuhud. And then, we're living in strange times where we have the screen. And we see that, unfortunately, some people, they are caught in other things, like engaged in TV, internet, DVD, screen, right? So this is also an aspect of fitna, the times of, one of the alamat that there's a spiritual decline, that shaitan has found a way to invade the homes, right? Has found a way to invade the hearts of the believers. And, it has become a necessity to use use such gadgets. There's no way out of it. But what we have to do is that we should be very careful in the way that we use these things. Very careful. And again, this is linked with haya, right? And works both gender, right? Sometimes the husband and sometimes it's the wife. Sometimes it's the man, sometimes it's the woman. This also has an effect on your spirituality. One of our teachers used to tell us that you have to learn to live a life which is screen-free. Have the screen, but live a life that is screen-free. Live a life free from these things. Because only when you free up your heart from these things, and this is important, that you might have them in your hand, you might use them because of your assignment or your other things, but you have to free up your heart for these things. Your heart cannot be into these things. Only when you can free up your heart from these things, the gadgets, the screen, then your heart will be able to enjoy the pleasure from salah. Then your heart will be able to enjoy the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people, and all of us, we have done this perhaps. We make the excuse that they need to watch news. No, right? News, you have to be careful. Some things have benefit and some things have harm. If there is a thing which has good and bad, but the harm is more, right? Allah Ta'ala has given us one example of that in the Quran. Alcohol. Allah Ta'ala explained that there is good in alcohol, there is bad in alcohol, but the harm, the bad is greater than the benefit. That concept Allah Ta'ala has explained Himself in the Quran. So this is also a concept of zuhud, that we have to reassess. I have to reassess my dunya. If the spiritual harm is more than the dunyavi benefit, then I will get rid of it. I will limit myself. Right? If the spiritual harm is more than the dunyavi benefit, then I will limit exposure. I'll be careful. I'll be very. If I can't avoid it altogether, I'll be extremely wary and cautious. Right? Today, the way we use our cell phones, we give our children phones at they're 3 and 4 years old and they have these iPads. We have to lay down the rules, right? We have to lay them down. Parents sometimes they argue that if I don't give my child access to a phone, they will use it secretly. Right? But we have to be careful with this. The chance that your child is using a phone in secret, that's there, but it might be less than using it openly, which might be more harmful. So sometimes, an older generation of men and women, they won't even know what's happening around them, what's going on, what is happening to their sons, what is happening to their daughters. The father might be an alim, the mother might be an alima, and their own sons and daughters, and they are writing letters to the Shaykh and saying that please don't tell my family about this sin. And these sins have come straight into our homes. And sometimes the older generation, they don't know, but their own kids, their own family members, they have these problems and they want to keep it as a secret. Don't tell this to my family. And shaitan has developed this way that we can lose our haya secretly. Shaitan has developed a way through which we can lose our haya secretly. Even if we have had a dini education, even if we had a dini background, a dini family, even if we are taking ilm classes, if we are going to study ilm every day, this danger will go down, right? If we have more simplicity, that danger will go down, And this is the reason why Islam is saying that you try to nip the evil in the bud. Islam is saying lower the gaze, right? Islam is saying that be careful about those things which can even slightly affect your haya. This is a hukum, by the way, for both men and women. Kullil mu'minina yawudhu min abasarihim. Tell the believing men to lower their gaze. Kullil mu'minati yaghdudna min abasarihinna. And tell the believing women to lower the gaze. You don't even look at those things, those pixels. Looking is the door to sin. Looking is the beginning of sin. Looking is the door to physical sin. So Islam says, nip the evil in the bud. If this gaze is dangerous, right? And we should think about this. If a gaze is dangerous, then the screen also is dangerous. It also has a danger. Once there was a person who came to a Shaykh, and everything about them was good. They were very intelligent, had a soft personality, good character. He had ibadah. He used to sit with the ulama, do khidmat of deen. He had respect for the scholars. He had everything. There's only one downfall was the sins that he used to commit on the screen. That was a downfall, pulled him down. So that person who carries himself with the best of haya, Allah Ta'ala loves him. That woman who carries herself with the best of haya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves her. We should also avoid ourselves from becoming the screen, right? Avoid yourself from becoming a display screen ourselves. That's why, if you look at the early women, the Ummahatul Mu'mineen, and also in our deen, there is also this ruling about the niqab, right? There are two views about that. But some people get scared about this. But it's the same choice. That a person who carries themselves with the best of haya, who are our models? Amma Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, Amma Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha. When we pattern ourselves according to them, those who are the best of models, who had the best of haya, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also love us in the way He loved them. So it's all about becoming beloved to Allah Ta'ala. This is one of the major ways of becoming beloved, more and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of this act, perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can protect our iman in the future. Allah Ta'ala might protect the iman of our children in the future. But for this requires a willingness to sacrifice. So in really, there are three real fundamental ways in which a person can increase. To increase in sacrifice, to increase in simplicity, and to increase in haya. And whoever can increase in these three things, then they will benefit tremendously from the ilm that they're studying and from the zikr that they're doing. Then that ilm and zikr, will help her, inshallah, will help them, inshallah, get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That ilm and zikr will constantly remind your heart about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your heart then will be stuck on the feelings of love and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will be able to attain this wuquf qalbi, that you will be able to pause your heart on the remembrance of Allah. Your kayfiyat, your feeling will be that, oh Allah, I want to remember you only, such that I become unaware of everything else. So we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us the ability, the tawfiq, that we can increase in our sacrifice, we can increase in our simplicity, and we can increase in our haya, both the outer haya and the inner haya. And through this, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable all of us to come closer to Him. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Before we make dua, We'll do a short silent zikr of the heart for a few moments. Close your eyes and bow your head. Disconnect yourself from everything else in this world and make niyat that, Ya Allah, you have said in the Quran, Fazkuruni adhkurkum, that if you remember me, I will remember you. Ya Allah, I'm deeply remembering you deep inside of my heart. And I ask you that you remember my heart by showering your rahmah, your mercy upon my heart, by inclining my heart towards your remembrance, by softening my heart towards your zikr, by purifying my heart of its filth of its sins, and my heart in gratitude and shukr is calling upon your Isme Azam, Isme Jalala, Allah, as if my heart is secretly, silently saying, Allah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Make dua. Subhana Rabbil al-Wahhab. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallam. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين اللهم إنا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب من يقربنا إليك اللهم آت نفسي تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها Ya Allah, Ya Rabbi Kareem, Zalamna Anfusana. Allah, we have wronged ourselves. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we come to you tonight in Tawbah. Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, that you accept our tawbah tonight. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we make tawbah for all the sins that we remember, for all the sins that we have forgotten, for all the sins that we did during the day, for all the sins that we did during the night. Allah, for all the sins that we did in public, for all the sins that we did in private. Ya Rabbi Kareem, forgive us for all of the sins, Ya Allah. Allah, out of your rahmah, out of your mercy. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, forgive us for all the mistakes, for all the sins, for all the ghafla, for all the heedlessness. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, Allah grant us the haqiqat of Iman, grant us the reality of taqwa, grant us the reality of true tawbah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we are sick and tired of living such a life of hypocrisy. Allah, we are sick and tired of living such a life where we have oppressed ourselves. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we don't want to be distant from you. Allah, we don't want to be separated from you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we're sick and tired of this life, of these emotions which are empty of you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we look at ourselves. Allah, we see a hardness in our heart. We see blackness and a darkness in our hearts. But Ya Rabbi Kareem, you are Muqallibul Qulub. Allah, you are the changer of our hearts. Allah, we present our hearts to you tonight. Allah, we ask you that you soften our hearts towards your remembrance. Allah, we ask you that you purify our hearts of its impurities. Allah, that you incline our hearts towards your zikr. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, remove the blackness from our hearts, the darkness of our hearts, the rust and crust from our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, make our hearts munawwar with the nur of Iman once again. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, Allah, revive our dead hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, Allah, we ask that you put your muhabba in our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, ignite the flame of your muhabbat in our hearts. Ignite the flame of your desire in our hearts. Allah, make us love you more than anything else in our life. Allah, make us love you more than any other love that we have in our life. Allah, make us yearn for you more than any other yearning that we have in our life. Allah, make us we have a longing for you more than any other longing that we have. Ya Rabbi Kareem, grant us a passion in our deen. Grant us a passion and a jazba to draw close to you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, make us people of Allah, make us people have the ability to sacrifice in your name. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, grant us the tawfiq to make sacrifices, Ya Allah, to be able to sacrifice anything and everything in order to draw close to you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, grant us that himmat, grant us that strength, grant us that ability. Allah, grant us that tawfiq. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, increase us in our simplicity. Allah, grant us the sunnah simplicity in our character, the sunnah simplicity in our demeanor, the sunnah simplicity in our zahir, in our batin. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, adorn our zahir with the sunnah, adorn and beautify our batin with the sunnah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we ask you from the tips of our hair to the soles of our feet, Allah, make us such that we become pleasing to you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, grant us haya in our hearts. Allah, increase us in our haya. Allah, grant us the zahiri haya. Allah, grant us the batini haya. Allah, increase us in our zahiri haya. Allah, increase us in our batini haya. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, make us bahaya. Enable us to live a life of haya. Ya Rabbi Kareem, grant us haya in our eyes. Allah, grant us haya in our thoughts. Allah, grant us haya in our desires. Allah, grant us haya in our feelings. Allah, grant us haya in our thinking and our thoughts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, Allah, accept these du'as from all of us tonight. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we ask you that you purify our nafs. Allah, you are Muzaki Hakiki. Allah, you are the purifier of our hearts and nafs. Ya Rabbi Kareem, purify our impure nafs. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, Ya Rabbi Kareem, remove all the blameworthy attributes from our nafs. Allah, remove envy from our nafs. Ya Rabbi Kareem, save us from envy and jealousy. Ya Rabbi Kareem, save us from arrogance and kibr. Ya Rabbi Kareem, save us from lustful thoughts and lustful feelings. Allah, save us from the excessive love for the dunya. Ya Rabbi Kareem, save us from all the unlawful and permissible loves. Save us, Ya Allah, from all the unlawful attributes and qualities. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, beautify us with the praiseworthy qualities. Allah, Ya Allah, grant us the sifat al-mu'minana. Ya Rabbi Kareem, grant us the sifat al-mu'minana that you've mentioned in the Quran. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we present ourselves to you tonight. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we have no place other than you to go to. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we are at your doorstep. Allah, we are your servants. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, Allah, in the dunya, if there is a beggar, he is not able to get from one door, he goes to the other door. He is not able to get from the second door, he goes to the third door. Ya Rabbi Kareem, if he's not able to get from the third door, he goes to a fourth door. Ya Rabbi Kareem, he has multiple doors to go to, but Ya Rabbi Kareem, we have no place to go to other than you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we have this one door, which is your door. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we're at your doorstep. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we ask you that you let us in. Ya Rabbi Kareem, let us in, Ya Allah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, take us in. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, grant us your qurb. Accept us for your nearness. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, include our names also amongst the muqarrabeen, the muhibbeen, the ashiqeen. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, accept all of us for the khidmat of deen, for the tajdeed of deen, for the revival of sunnah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, whatever sacrifices are required on this path of deen, grant us the himmat and the strength to be able to make those sacrifices. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we live in difficult times. Allah, we live in those times about which the Prophet ﷺ said that a person will have iman in the morning. When they go to sleep, iman will be taken out from their heart. Allah, we are living in such difficult times of tests and trials. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we ask that you protect our iman in these times. Allah, protect our iman, Ya Allah. Allah, safeguard our iman. Allah, strengthen our iman. Allah, nourish our iman. Ya Rabbi Kareem, nurture our iman. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, save us from all the fitnas that are outside the Muslim Ummah. Allah, save us from all the fitnas that are within the Muslim Ummah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we give our iman to you as amana. Allah, we ask you that you protect this iman and grant us a life of iman. Grant us a death on iman to raise us up in the Yawm al-Qiyamah in a way, in a state of iman, in such a state that we're pleasing to you and that you're pleased with us. Ya Rabbi Kareem, accept these du'as from all of us. Allah, whatever pious intentions any one of us have in our heart, hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, grant us, Ya Allah. Allah, we are making du'as according to our own awqat, according to our own ability. Allah, we ask that you grant us according to your own shan. Allah, grant us according to your own shan-e Kareemi, your shan-e Rahimi. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, accept these du'as from all of us tonight. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على حبيبه خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.